Epic of Remnant 4 is getting ready to drop any day now, so I hope you're all ready for a good old-fashioned witch hunt. Hello everyone, Soberoni of G&D Reviews here, with a servant spotlight for the Lancer, who looks like she gives the comfiest lap pillows, Nezha. We'll be examining her stats and skills, as well as going over pointers on how to utilize her effectively, and an overall grade comparing her to how she stacks up to the other 4-star servants. Now, onto Nezha's stats. Nezha has a max HP of 12,112 and a max attack of 9,284, which becomes 9,748 due to her class damage modifier. For a 4-star Lancer, Nezha has about average HP, but she does have fairly high attack. Although when compared to the rest of the 4-star servants overall, her HP is quite high, while her attack is just average. As is usually the case with Lancers, Nezha does have some good stats overall, and is well balanced both offensively and defensively. Taking a look at her skills, her first skill is Taoism Art rank A. It increases her quick and buster card effectiveness between 10 and 20% for 3 turns. It also increases her crit strength for 3 turns between 20 and 30%, all depending on level. Her second skill is Spirit Ball Child rank A. It applies Guts to herself 1 time, lasting for 5 turns, reviving her with between 1000 and 2000 HP, and it also charges her NP gauge between 10 and 20%, both depending on level. And finally, her last skill is Protection of Tathagata rank B. It increases her crit start gather rate for 1 turn between 300 and 500% depending on level, and it also removes all of her debuffs. For passives, she only has one, and it is Magic Resistance rank A. It increases her debuff resist by 20%. As for her deck and Noble Phantasm, Nezha has a Quick Buster deck with Quick Arts Buster and a Buster Noble Phantasm. Her Noble Phantasm is Shihisore Kansenso, which increases her own NP strength for 1 turn between 20 and 60% depending on overcharge, and deals heavy damage to all enemies with between a 300 and 500% damage modifier depending on level. It also inflicts burn on all enemies for 5 turns, dealing 1000 damage per turn. Taking a closer look at her cards, we see that her quick card hits 4 times, her arts hits 3 times, her buster hits 3 times, and her extra attack hits 4 times. She has an NP gain rate of 0.72% and a star rate of 12.2%. She does have some good NP gain from the high NP gain rate and large hit counts, and similarly she does have very good star gen from the high hit counts and double quick deck. Unfortunately, Nezha is one of the more overlooked servants in FGO, which is a shame considering how cute and lovable she is. Although when you're sandwiched between the releases of Abigail, Hokusai, and Aresh, you're bound to fly under the radar. But make no mistake, just because Nezha isn't a blockbuster name doesn't necessarily make her any less high quality. She has one of the most balanced stat spreads of any servant, not only having very good HP and decent attack, but also packing some very good NP gain and star generating. So she has no holes from a stats perspective. Her skills also leave little to be desired in terms of balance. Taoism Art is a versatile and strong skill that boosts your star gen, damage, and crit strength all at once. What's more, the cooldown is short and it has a high uptime, so Nezha can take full advantage of this throughout most of the battle. While 20% card buffs and 30% crit damage are not particularly strong numbers, the consistency and flexibility of this skill makes it invaluable to Nezha, as it allows you to better produce crit stars and it strengthens your DPS. In other words, it's the backbone of your crit engine. Speaking of which, Protection of Tathagata, Nezha's third skill, synergizes well with Taoism Art, as it gives her a big buff to star weight for a turn, making critting much easier and more reliable. Unfortunately, the buff is only for 1 turn, but the skill does also cleanse all debuffs, which gives it some nice defensive utility, although you're almost always going to want to use this skill offensively. Nezha has a much better defensive option in Spirit Ball Child, which gives her a standard 5-turn Guts and an additional 20% NP charge. This skill has some wide-ranging applications. It definitely allows Nezha to be rather tanky and capable of surviving enemy Noble Phantasms. Timing the Guts isn't too tricky on it either, as at max level the Guts effect has a very high uptime, so you can activate this skill well in advance of any fatal danger and still be safe. But offensively, this also allows Nezha a quick and easy Noble Phantasm, which is especially useful for farming if you have Kaleidoscope. So Nezha has a pretty well balanced and versatile skill set overall. You definitely want to prioritize Taoism Art first, as that is your main damage and utility skill, followed by Spirit Ball Child for better NP charge and lower cooldown, and then Protection of Tathagata last. Although if you would rather focus on DPS and crits over farming and defense, then you can level Protection of Tathagata second instead. Nezha's Noble Phantasm is an AoE buster that buffs her own NP strength prior to damage, and it also burns all enemies. There isn't much to say about this Noble Phantasm other than it's a decent wave clear. The damage isn't too high despite the NP buff, because Nezha lacks an NP interlude and her buffs aren't particularly strong. Thankfully though, Nezha does have really good NP gain, so you can fire off multiple Noble Phantasms in a fight. But you'll mostly just use this for farming. If I were to sum up Nezha in one word, it'd be thighs. But if I were to sum up her gameplay in one word, it'd be balanced. Normally servants have areas where they excel in and areas where they falter, but Nezha is generally strong all around. She has good HP and attack stats, her NP gain and star generating are excellent, and her skills are solid both defensively and offensively. She is more than able to generate enough stars for herself to crit off of, so she's very self-sustaining and doesn't really need supports to babysit her as much either. Likewise, defensively, she can take a hit and get back up thanks to Guts and Cleanse. Taoism also gives her a good source of steady and consistent DPS, very similar to Caster of Midrash. But if I were to pick one area where Nezha shined, it'd be as a crit lancer. As I mentioned, she is self-sustaining even without an outside crit star generator, and her low cooldown buff makes her buster crits really nasty. The Star Absorb buff also makes it much easier to set her up for crit brave chains too. But for as balanced as she is, Nezha is also lacking in one key area: damage. While her attack is decent, her buffs aren't, so you'll find that both her normal card damage and her NP damage are lackluster, especially when compared to most of the other 4-star Lancers. There's also no shortage of crit Lancers. Servants like Lancer Alter and Raiko really put Nezha to shame. Such a lack of damage means that Nezha is hyper-reliant on crits to be viable, and that makes her really hard to recommend for tougher battles where some enemy waves are even able to tank an NP from her. And unfortunately, Nezha doesn't have the utility to make up for her lack of damage the way that some 4-stars like Liz do. What she needs most is straight up damage buffs. Nezha is self-sufficient enough that she doesn't need defensive supports or star generators as much as most servants, so crafting a team around her is pretty simple. All she needs is damage buffs. These buffs fall into two unique camps. You can go for the standard attack buffs, or you can build her specifically for crits. I highly recommend going for the crit route, in which case I suggest pairing her with servants like Brynhilda, Caesar, and Osakabe Hime. Bryn is one of the best in the game when it comes to buffing crit servants thanks to her third skill. It'll make Nezha a lot more lethal, and the heal is a nice bonus. If you don't have Bryn, then Caesar is an excellent free-to-play choice with his strong targetable crit buff. And Osakabe Hime post-interlude is a perfect match for Nezha's deck type, capable of more than doubling Nezha's own quick and buster buffs and crit damage. If you'd rather not rely on crit RNG, Nezha can still be effective if paired with servants that provide a low cooldown attack buff, like Liz, Nero Bride, and Ishtar Rider. Liz provides the best effective attack buff, 40%, on a short cooldown, and also a defense down. Nero Bride also provides a powerful attack buff and additional healing and NP charge if you want to be more well-rounded, while Ishtar Rider is a good free-to-play option if you have her, since Shining Waters has excellent synergy with Taoism. Nezha's Bondcraft Essence is Universe Ring. It increases the party's quick card effectiveness and NP damage by 10%. Not the worst Bondcraft Essence, but not the best either, as it really doesn't play to your strengths. Instead, I suggest going for a crit build with craft essences that build crit damage and Star Absorb, like Talk of the Hot Sands, Lunar Hot Springs, Trick or Treatment, or Gem Magecraft. If you'd rather not rely on crits for damage, then you can use CEs that buff your buster and quick card effectiveness like Wolves of Mibu and After Lunch Order, or you can use craft essences that allow you to farm effectively with your NP charge like Kaleidoscope. In the future, be on the lookout for Imperial Capital Holy Grail War, as it buffs your quick, buster, and NP gen all at once, drastically increasing your DPS. Overall, Nezha isn't the most groundbreaking servant ever. She does have issues with outputting damage that's on the same level as the other 4-star crit lancers. Her buffs are underwhelming, and she also lacks the team utility to make up for her low damage. But what she does have is the ability to operate at a very high level of self-sufficiency, not having to rely on other supports as much. She has good wave clear for quick and efficient farming, she has good versatility for fitting in most teams, and of course, she has impressively consistent NP spam and DPS. So all in all, I think she deserves a B from me. She isn't the type of servant who will come in and wreck everyone the way that the other crit servants will, but she is a good complement to most teams, capable of good steady damage, reliable star generating, and wave clear. She's especially good if you're a new player or you lack top tier crit lancers, since she doesn't need as much support to do well, and most of the other 4-star lancers that are better than her are story locked or limited. And those are my thoughts on Nezha. It's hard to recommend rolling for her given the upcoming slew of banners, but if you do get her, make sure to show her some love because she deserves it. As always, let me know what you think in the comments down below, and if you haven't already, do check out the other EOR 4 servant spotlights. I did one for Abigail and Caster of Midrash, linked both on screen right now and in the description. Also, if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to leave a like and consider subscribing if you really enjoyed the video. Join the party over at our Discord, show us on Twitch, and follow us on Twitter. And I'll see you all in the next servant spotlight. Soberoni out.